everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to Pop Culture Comics Presents Captain Logan's Comic Book Week in Review. First off, I'm going to start with the Shadowland finale, with Shadowland number 5 and Daredevil number 512. I'm going to talk about these two books together. While Shadowland is a mini-series, the full story has really been between the mini and the main Daredevil book. Now, I really think the story could have easily stayed in the main Daredevil title, especially since that's where the best parts of the arc have been. It's designed so you need to pick up both books to understand what's happening, but Shadowland seems more interested in giving cameos and special appearances to various Marvel superheroes, while Daredevil focuses more on the human characters and delves more into the meat of what's really going on with Matt running the hand and gradually becoming more evil. Now, it's no secret that I haven't been loving Shadowland. I thought it started off strong, and I quickly became disappointed as it became clear that Matt wasn't responsible for his actions. He was possessed by a demon who made him hurt and kill so many people. I won't give anything away, but after everything's said and done, we find that that isn't entirely true. The demon was responsible for certain actions, but not others, and so Matt still has a lot to atone for. This does redeem the story to a point for me, but I have to say, I'm not sure enough really happens to validate it taking 10 issues to get there. There are things set up that never really pay off, especially with Bullseye. But there's still some good reading here. We do get back into Matt's head, and there's a great sequence in the middle of Shadowland 5 where Matt relives various parts of his life, but wrong, as the demon fights him trying to keep possession. It only takes one moment of clarity where Matt regains control and recognizes Foggy for Iron Fist to use his powers and force the demon out. Daredevil 512 is mostly about Foggy, who still refuses to give up on Matt after everything that's happened, hoping that now that he's himself again, they can work together. But Matt is nowhere to be found, and although Daredevil is spotted by several people, including Iron Fist and Luke Cage, we quickly find that this is set up for something Marvel's been hyping over the last month: Black Panther taking Daredevil's place in Hell's Kitchen as the man without fear. Overall, Shadowland has its moments, but it could have been tighter and more character-centered, a little more about Matt Murdock himself, and less about getting all the superheroes together. Again, I really think that wouldn't have been a problem if it had stayed in the Daredevil book. I love the art in both books, though. Shadowland has a fantastic balance between gritty, dark ninja and crime drama art and bright, colorful superhero stuff, while Daredevil retains that rough urban feel it's famous for. There are some great moments for both Foggy and Elektra throughout the books, and some of the cameos, especially Ghost Rider, really are a lot of fun. I'm hoping this is all going to set up Matt for some interesting soul-searching. Wolverine, the best there is, number 1. There's a big parental advisory statement on the front of this issue, and it needs it. This is one of the rougher books I've read in a while. It really showcases Wolverine's animalistic side, opening with a scene of Wolverine forced to fight other mutants in front of a crowd. Wolverine tells his new female companion about this and how he escaped, and it's a story that does a good job at showing how out of control Logan allows himself to get when he's put in a tough spot, which becomes important toward the end of the issue at a party that goes horribly wrong. It's an incredibly bloody and violent book, but it's not without its humor. I like it when writers find clever ways to poke fun of the popularity of a character as well established as Wolverine. The funniest thing in the issue is when the girl Wolverine's with asks him, "Don't you have a team or something?" To which Wolverine responds, "I got too many teams." He also makes a crack about Simon Cowell I found myself chuckling at. The only real criticism I have about this book is how often people swear without the words actually being printed on the page. I'm not huge on profanity, and I kind of appreciate F-bombs and other choice words being replaced with symbols, as is often done in mainstream comics, but there's so much of that going on here, it's incredibly distracting, sometimes several times on a page. And it really makes me wonder why, if this book had to be so adult, it couldn't have been printed under the Max line. After all, Max has already done Punisher and Deadpool. Wolverine seems like the next logical step. But if you like some of the Max titles, and you like that really animalistic Wolverine, this book is definitely for you. Brightest Day 15. Here we go 25 years into the future. Thanks to Martian Manhunter, Mars is a utopia, and everyone's happy. The Justice League is raving about how safe things are because of him, and the only problem John Jones is facing is that even after 25 years of having his Martian family and his planet back, it doesn't feel entirely real to him. Earth is still more his home than Mars, and he somehow still sees Mars as dead when it seems clearly to be alive. Something's obviously off, of course, and it's fun to watch Martian Manhunter as he figures out what's going on. I think a little too much time is spent with members of the Justice League talking about how perfect things are. It becomes pretty obvious pretty fast where this is going, if you've ever read or seen anything with this perfect future scenario. But having said that, there are some truly horrific images in the middle of the issue, and I must say I was genuinely creeped out. This is one of the more standalone issues of Brightest Day, and I'd say it's another one you could pick up if you haven't been reading the series, and if you want a good what the kind of story. And now the Batman 80-page giant for 2010. This book is definitely worth the $6 price tag. You get a lot of great short stories in these 80 pages, each written and drawn by a different team and each featuring a different character in the Batman mythos. It's unusual because they're all villains. Among them is a story about the Riddler being blackmailed into stealing a priceless artifact, even though he's still trying to play it straight, a story about a reality show that goes into Gotham sewers looking for Killer Croc, a visually stunning tale about Scarecrow getting dangerously close to discovering Batman's secret identity, and a story where the Joker has to prove he's really insane. Of the 7 stories here, there was really only one I thought was subpar. I love good standalone Batman adventures, and these are quite short and yet also quite satisfying, putting fun spins on familiar villains. There's hardly any mention of current Batman story arcs here, despite all the changes happening in the universe, and I'd say this might not be a bad choice for a Christmas gift for a Batman fan, even one who isn't keeping up on current. Lots of bang for your buck. Action Comics Annual number 13. This is my favorite read for the week. It's 2 different stories about a younger Lex Luthor, but they're loosely related in both plot and theme. They're each about Lex gaining experience and power in the criminal underworld. I'm a sucker for good titles, and I love how this issue plays with titles. The first story is called Father Box, about Lex stumbling onto Apocalypse and working for Darkseid, and the second is called A Father's Box, about Lex being mentored by Ra's al Ghul. The characterization is spot on in this first story, with Darkseid being impressed with Lex for not being afraid of him and refusing to be dominated. Lex is hired by Intergang and finds a boom tube in one of their buildings, which Darkseid apparently meant for him to find, and he makes Lex a scientist on Apocalypse for 6 weeks until Lex steals a father box and escapes, and of course he uses that technology to get a lot of wealth and power when he gets home. The second story is especially impressive because it's told without dialogue balloons and only narration boxes. It tells its tale in the form of a poem, which is very fable-like and employs a fairly sophisticated slant rhyme scheme. Even if you haven't been following Lex's exploits in Action Comics, I highly recommend this as a standalone comic. It's refreshingly clever and well crafted. And lastly, Lady Death number 0 from Boundless. Pop Culture Comics asked me to review this book this week, and while I was skeptical, I'm surprised to say I didn't hate this book. It was actually pretty entertaining. This isn't my normal genre. I'm not big on sword and sorcery fantasy generally, but this was a little more like historical fantasy, with its roots in myth. Lady Death isn't a new character, of course, but I've never read her, and I was happy to find that I didn't need to know anything to read this. If you like books along the lines of Conan, or even something like Masters of the Universe, you might give this a shot. Lady Death has been banished from the underworld and stripped of her memories and her powers, so she's traveling with an army of humans who have to save some villagers from a group of cannibals who have added them to their food stores. I can't remember the last time I read about cannibals, so that was fun. Lady Death is, of course, a skilled assassin, and everyone's skeptical of her, even though so far she's been on the side of the human she's traveling with. When she kills a being from the underworld, the female leader of that realm gets nervous. Though I was confused as to why she always has this giant grin on her face no matter what she's saying, and sends minions to ensure Lady Death doesn't regain her identity. It's a pretty brutal book with lots of killing and skeleton-looking soldiers and beheading and impaling, and while the amnesia bit is tired and kind of typical, I found the writing to be pretty solid for this kind of storytelling, and though I expected to be bored silly, I was genuinely entertained. Also out this week, from Marvel, Captain America Patriot number 4 of 4, follow Jeff Mace, the Captain America of the 1950s, as he tries to find out whether or not the American government itself trusts him in the age of McCarthyism. Heroes for Hire number 1, a new team of unlikely characters working together, including Ghost Rider, Punisher, Silver Sable, Elektra, and more. From DC, there's American Vampire number 9, the end of the ever-twisting and turning Devil in the Sand arc, and Adventure Comics number 521, the rebuilding of the Green Lantern Corps in the 31st century. And that's my news and reviews for this week. I'm Captain Logan, wishing you pleasant reading and creative thinking.